Good evening everyone, my name is Doomhammer, and after tonight you'll have about 3 days of free will left. After that, Mental Omega will take control of your life, and there's absolutely no escaping it. Welcome to the last Subfaction Spotlights, featuring Headquarters. With me as always, Zenothist. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
But before we start... Before we start with the specific units, we've got a few things that we wanted to show you off that are new or improved of the Epsilon. Starting with...
In general.
Starting with this guy. This is the Infiltrator. As you can see...
Ooh, right. The Infiltrator.
It is the spy for the
equivalent
Epsilon.
for Epsilon.
Mm-hmm. However, people might have been wondering, what do the Epsilon have when it comes to being able to destroy bridges? Because they have nothing like Crazy Ivan or a Navy SEAL. Well, you might remember that the Infiltrator from 2.0 was completely stealthed, and that has been changed for the benefit of this. As soon as it will explode. Okay.
Yeah, our games are so bad that even the explosives in-game have lag.
Well, as you can see, it actually works. I was worried for a moment that it didn't. So yeah.
Well, ain't that great?
So the Infiltrator is now the infantry that destroys bridges. Of course, the downside, it's tier 3 rather than tier 2.
Of course. Okay,
moving on.
Other than that, I believe they function exactly the same as every other spy equivalent in the game.
Yep, they do.
Okay, cool.
So next up, let's talk about their infantry transport.
Oh, right, the driller.
Yeah.
The subterranean APC, as I would call it.
Well, I've got 3 drillers stationed right here, and I'm going to be sending them over to this area. And they're gone.
Okay.
Well, if you turn up your volume,
something I would highly advise you to do because the soundtrack is awesome, but also because the subterranean driller, of course, travels underground, which allows it to avoid any and every threat, obstacle, or terrain that might be in between its path and its destination. That might be on its path or between its destination. Because, of course, in Yuri's Revenge, unlike in Tiberian Sun and Tiberian Sun Firestorm, there isn't really a good way to detect subterranean units. So we found this neat little workaround by having the the driller play this burrowing sound whenever it gets close. So if you turn up the sound, you'll be able to hear from which side a driller would be coming from, so you can give it so you have some kind of preparation time. Now there, I can hear it.
Yeah, I do believe that stealth detection units and infantry can actually reveal them, be it on the mini-map.
They can refill them. Yeah.
But of course,
that's not ideal.
The moving sound is the best way to spot them.
Yeah, or to spot them.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to the next. Moving on to the next unit. I know we're doing this rather quick.
Well, that's okay. I mean, that's probably something we should also mention, of course, because the driller is probably. There was a lot of issues, of course, with issues. There was a bit of a balance issue with drillers being able to carry up to 5 infantry. We brought that down to 3. Drillers can now only carry a maximum of 3 infantry, I believe, at the moment. Isn't that right, too?
They are. Okay. However, people might have noticed I had 3 drillers and only 6 infantry emerged from them. That is because one of the infantry, which we'll be getting over, we'll get to that a little later, takes up 2 infantry passenger slots. But like I said, we'll get to that a little later.
Okay, so what's up next?
What is up next? Well, I wanted to say, let's go to the Basilisk.
Alright, sweet. Getting right to the goods. So, the Basilisk, what is that? That's kind of the Epsilon equivalent of the Allied Barracuda and the Soviet Kirov. It's a floating giant building destroyer. Oh yeah, there I see it.
Oh, I've got just one to showcase what it does, how it looks. Of course, I'm gonna have to... Oh dear. Zenothist. Oh.
Okay, cool.
Of course, I'm gonna have to keep it clear from any anti-air, as
yeah, because of course they are they're reasonably slow. They're kind of between a Barracuda and a Kirov in speed and armor-wise as well. I believe can they also fire from different directions? I think they have Omni fire. Is that right? They don't have to actually face their opponent to fire upon it.
I can
Not
easily
entirely
show
sure
that.
about that, but I give it a shot.
I'll have a look-see. Just one
But yeah,
at least.
they are kind of unique as that they have the longest range of the air structure destroying units, as I call them, tier 3 heavy air units.
Well, as you can see, it's fires from the side. I was trying to make it fire from facing away from the war factory. That I don't know if it
That's
works,
also possible.
But oh, that is okay. So yeah, of course,
It's possible.
of course, you gotta have to keep it away from anti-air fire, Gatling guns, archers.
I mean, it's reasonably fast, but it's definitely got some rather light armor, so you don't want it around anti-air for too long.
And I remember that a few betas ago, when we first introduced this unit, we actually made it show that no stationary anti-air could hit it, but that was considered.
Yeah, they were kind of
that was considered way too overpowered, and thus
well,
I believe
it's a flying
it is.
siege unit then.
Yeah, it's a flying siege unit, but it's been.
It's been
debuffed.
nerfed. They're perfectly targetable by anti-air defenses now.
But of course, if you have enough, but that is with everything. If you have enough, nothing can survive.
Of course. Well,
yeah.
until I move in with Gatling tanks.
However, also one thing, the Basilisks, like the Kirovs and like the Barracudas, have nothing when it comes to anti-air defense. They can't defend themselves from aerial units. They can't attack, for instance, even a Crow or a Scout Raven. Sorry.
Yeah, so pretty much. Otherwise, they're very effective against structures, but otherwise rather defenseless.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on then.
There are a few things about the support powers that are left unsaid. For instance, I did use this during the Psycorp Spotlight on Libra, but we never really showed it off properly. This is the Shadow Ring. As you can see, it selects a single unit, but actually it serves
it's kind of in a cross pattern.
It's a cross pattern that it cloaks,
which temporarily cloaks. Yeah, it temporarily cloaks friendly vehicles and infantry, and it's pretty much that. It's exactly what it says on the tin. I think if you take a look at my Gatling tanks over here at my base, then I'll just deploy it there in the middle of about 3x3 tanks.
Yeah, do
you
that.
got the camera on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as you can
you'll see that
the outer four on the west, north, south, and east side did not vanish.
Exactly. And of course, as the Shadow Ring is only a temporary buff, so after I think a couple of seconds, it'll reappear. I'm thinking about a little more than half a minute. I think 40 seconds, something like that.
It would be something around that. Oh, it's already back. So
there it is.
You were just able to finish your sentence and they're back already.
Hey, sweet, nice timing.
I guess that one
concludes the Shadow Ring. So what's up next?
Well, another support power that is common towards all of the Epsilon. The Risen Railgun. Yeah,
the risen railgun, of course, which is something that we've shown off a lot in previous spotlights and streams, of course, which is basically it's one of the neater general support weapons that the Epsilon have, which basically allows you to spawn a railgun tower anywhere on the map where you can see, and if you have like if you have 1,000 cash or so, then you can spawn a risen railgun anywhere on the map. It'll pretty much do the same thing as a normal railgun. It'll target enemies. It'll fire upon them. What this one does have is a bit of a boon to give it a bit more of a defensive advantage as well. Is that it can also repair friendly vehicles in a small range around it. So it's just, you could to kind of discourage aggressive use of it and more as a supportive role. Of course, the Risen Railgun also, due to, of course, for balance issues, it's only a temporary thing. It slowly damages itself until it's completely destroyed. It also operates on its own little power source, so you don't need any extra base power to operate it. It's, how would I put it? It runs on batteries.
Mm-hmm. As I tried to show, I was trying to actually repair it, but as you could have seen, I couldn't do that. So
yeah, of course you can't repair the self-destructing railgun.
No. Also, of course, if you are using it offensively, it's gonna die relatively quick. So use it wisely. I mean, I remember one time that I was using it on offensively to quickly kill Tanya. I saw her come out of the barracks and I deployed the Rising Railgun and boom, she was gone. But
yeah,
it's definitely more useful as infantry, anti-infantry defense, of course, repair your own tanks and whatnot.
Exactly.
Now I think...
So, okay, what's up next?
I think that many people have been wondering what happened to the genetic mutator. Well, we have... Oh. Okay.
Well, it's still kind of there in spirit. It's there in spirit, specifically for the headquarters subfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the genetic mutator has been replaced with the rage inductor, but we now have for headquarters we now have a specific support power called Gene Burst. You might see a small group of 3 initiates somewhere near the map. Somewhere near my base. Maybe you can use to target them.
You want the Gene Burst? Well,
yeah, the Gene Burst.
I think that we were talking about the rage inductor first.
Okay, well, it doesn't really matter. We can do both.
So the rage inductor...
You can pick one.
Yeah, the rage inductor is a friendly support or super weapon.
That's the support super weapon for all Epsilon.
I've got a few tanks and a few initiates over here, so I'm going to use it on them to show you exactly what it does. And all infantry will die, and the tanks will get a boost in
armor, speed, fire, and firepower, I believe.
Yep. So it's definitely something you can of course also use it defensively against your enemy infantry, but don't use it against your enemy tanks. I think, I don't know for sure, that it will actually...
I don't think you want that.
No, I think that it will hurt you more than it will help you out.
Yeah.
And with that, I think that's all about all that we could tell about the newer additions to the arsenal of Epsilon all around. So let's get started.
Okay, sure. Then how about, on that note, on the Rage Inductor, how about we immediately just move on to Gene Burst, and then we just start up from the top then? How about we do that?
Very well. I see that you've stationed a few infantry over here.
Yeah, I'm just going to move a little brute here around, just to display what kind of power we're exactly looking at here. So if you'll just plop down a Gene Burst right there.
Sure. Well, I want to. I see that you've got one initiate at full health and a bunch at yellow health.
Yes, that's correct.
Which is
and
important.
I'll explain that.
It is important.
Yeah, exactly. I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so what you've witnessed here, of course, is that pretty much the Gene Burst is, in effect, it's a spiritual success to the genetic mutator. But as you've seen, it's been balanced for quite a bit. It's now it costs 1,000 credits to actually use it. It's got a smaller range, and it doesn't immediately mutate all infantry. It only mutates instantly. It only mutates infantry if they're at a reasonably low amount of health for balance issues, because everybody knows as when they played Yuri back in the vanilla version that the genetic mutator was incredibly broken because you could allow to mutate several scores and scores of friendly or unfriendly infantry in like the blink of an eye at full health. Whatever you did, it pretty much made all other if you had that super weapon out on the field, it made all other infantry absolutely obsolete. Mm-hmm. So this is pretty much a balanced genetic mutator is what we're looking at here. And it's all specific for the headquarters.
Also, to balance things out, because as you might know, that it's very useful to use your genetic mutator on your own infantry to get very cheap brutes. You can't actually do it on your own infantry anymore. It does absolutely it does absolutely nothing on your own infantry. Also,
Okay.
as has been showcased, Zenothist had a brute near his infantry before I plopped down the gene burst, but he kept his own brute.
Yeah.
The brutes, because they're already
Well,
mutated.
that's because. Well, it's not that. I mean, they can be mutated into brutes that are under your control. It's just that this one didn't have its health reduced far enough to be able to be mutated.
Honestly, I've tried this out before, and it doesn't work at all.
It doesn't work on brutes.
It doesn't work on brutes
at all.
There are certain infantry.
Interesting.
There are certain infantry that it doesn't work on. For instance, the Stalkers.
Yeah, because that's something we'll get to later.
And
of course brutes.
And of course brutes. There are, I believe, one or two more, but I'm not too sure about the other.
No, I'm pretty sure it's brutes and stalkers, primarily.
So that was the gene burst.
But okay,
Zenothist.
The gene burst.
Let's talk about the actual subfaction itself. What can you tell us about?
Yeah, the interesting bits, the units, the tanks.
I was
the
thinking
thing everybody plays with.
I think. Where are they stationed? What are their specific tactics?
Okay, sure. Who are the Epsilon headquarters? The Epsilon headquarters are the Antarctic division of the Psi Corps, who were instated by Yuri to protect his ultimate weapon. And I think a lot of our fans can take a bit of a guess as to what that weapon is.
Yes.
So yeah, that's basically their goal in the game. They're rather secretive. They're very high tech, mostly based on powerful infantry units. A lot of genetic manipulation. A lot of infantry support. That's mostly what they're about.
Also stealth. The headquarters.
Well, yes, also stealth.
The headquarters was namely the subfaction that introduced the. Oh, we completely forgot. The Chimera Cor.
Yeah.
We kind of forgot.
Oh yes, of course. We can't forget that. I think everybody who knows. Well, you guys know. We also know perfectly well as well that the former psychic interrupters that we had in 2.0, which were pretty much the stealth generators of Mental Omega, that those were terrible causes of lag. I mean, they cloaked buildings, they cloaked infantry and vehicles, and it was just. If you had like 2 or 3 of those things built in a single match, well, even on single player, you would get gigantic lag fests. We now have an equivalent of the psychic interrupter, which does prevent lag. It selectively cloaks only friendly units and vehicles, which reduces the amount of lag in a game by an insane amount. This is all done, of course, thanks to Ares. Of course, it's all selectively done. That's basically what the Chimera Cor is. The Chimera Cor is basically a toned down stealth generator, which simply doesn't cloak buildings, because cloaked buildings in the engine are the ones that are generally one of the biggest causes of lag in the game, and especially in 2.0.
As you can see, I've got a Chimera Cor selected, and you see the range of its effect. As you can see, it should be affecting these 3 buildings, the war factories and the grinder, but it doesn't. It only affects the tanks. If I had infantry here, it would also be cloaked. So yeah. So Zenothist, I noticed that you had a beautiful Chimera Cor near one of your war factories. Would you mind?
That's correct.
Selling that for me?
Sure.
So that the people can see how much you can. Oh wow. That's pretty significant. So yeah, you can really create very sneaky tactics. Of course,
it's a reasonably cheap. Yeah. In comparison, of course, due to the fact that it no longer causes, it actually barely causes any lag, as far as I know. Of course, they're now considerably a bit cheaper. They can be built smaller. Their range is still, it's not gigantic, but you can definitely, if you can build like 2 or 3 in a group, and you can cover a lot of ground with that, and you can definitely give people a very nasty surprise if nobody can actually see what's going on in your base.
Indeed. So. Now let's actually get started on the headquarters units and infantry.
Yeah, let's get started on the tanks, because that's the only interesting part of these subfaction spotlights.
Thanks.
Let's start out with the Opus Tanks.
The Opus Tank. Oh man.
The Opus Tank.
Where
you going, buddy?
I love the Opus Tank. Well.
Yeah.
Let's.
Is this your favorite basic tank?
This is my absolute favorite basic tank. So as you can see, I've stationed a group of Opus Tanks and initiates close by. As you can see,
Yeah.
if the game will actually stop doing that. As you can see, I selected
Yeah, I think
I selected an initiate, and you can see that I can. Come on.
Shitty internet strikes again.
That I can actually put in an infantry. As soon as the game will actually help out.
Yeah, it is. It is rather bad on my side. Sorry. I think the coast is clear now.
Okay, cool.
Quick, do it before he notices.
What? But as you
Anyway,
can see,
go on. You were saying.
as you can see, once you put in an infantry, not all infantry can enter, but we'll not go into too much detail on which can and cannot, because that will take way too long.
Yeah, it's basically all the larger infantry can't fit in it, and so just normal infantry can fit in it, not larger infantry. That's simple enough.
Of course, showcased here, initiates inside of a Opus tank. That's not so fun. But what makes it interesting is the fact that once you put in an infantry, it gains a second barrel.
Yeah, which significantly increases its firepower.
It basically
in
doubles
comparison
it.
to the single-barreled version, of course.
It basically doubles it.
Yeah,
but
and of course this also ties into headquarters theme of powerful infantry and infantry support. Of course, I mean even their tanks are pretty much improved in firepower if you add more infantry to the mix.
But of course, putting initiates inside of your Opus tank is the most commonly used tactic, but that's boring. So you know what? Goodbye. No, not you.
Well, what, you're leaving?
Oh yeah, wait, you?
Oh yeah, wait.
Yeah, because I've
Fight
I've got a second group over here, which is way more fun. So come at me, bro.
All right, then I'll do that.
Because what you can do is completely
of course.
is completely surprise your opponent by, for instance, putting in Dreamweavers, Brutes, and the Epsilon Adepts. The Dreamweavers, however, are one of the infantry that you can put in that will not allow for a second tank barrel. And I think
that's not.
I think the logic what you have to take in mind with this, if it can't man a tank barrel, it won't allow it. So
Okay, makes sense.
Brutes will.
So you can't put in dogs and make them operate tank barrels.
You can put
As
in dogs.
hilarious as that image is.
You can put in dogs. You can put in Dreamweavers, but
But
since
they're
they're
merely
not
bastards.
human. Also, well, I had it earlier on. What you can do is, of course, use it as a single unit transport. For instance.
Okay.
Ah, damn it.
Hey, I see that. Get out of here.
Well, okay, that really didn't work out the way I hoped, but that's also a possible use. You can put in
Okay,
engineers.
so yeah, they're pretty much also very quick transports if you need them, and
Yeah.
they serve as infantry protection, and they can also be buffed by infantry, and you can do a lot of cool mixes and matches here to surprise enemies with. Okay, neat.
That was
So
all about
what do we have next? Is it the unit that I've been looking around for like half an hour since we've started this game?
Oh, you mean you couldn't find
Is it that one? Is it the first unit that we actually made for Mental Omega? The first tank, I mean. The
I
stealth
think
tank.
it is.
The shadow
The
tank.
Shadow Tank. It is indeed one of the.
He who is unseen and yet rapes buildings.
I think it is one of the
Okay,
most
so cool.
iconic.
The iconic shadow.
Indeed. Well, let's have a look at what it does. Of course, being completely invisible while moving around, you can really surprise your opponent with this, making really nasty sneak attacks. But
Yeah, they're surprisingly effective against armor and infantry. They're not particularly effective anymore against structures. Not like I was saying for 2.0 that was the case, that they were absolutely terrifying to have. They could destroy a coneyard in like a couple of seconds flat, I believe.
Pretty much.
A good thing is, of course, the stealth tank is now the shadow tank is now tier 2. It's a very effective anti-unit weapon. That's generally what you're going to be using it for also for ambushes, things like that. It's not particularly heavily armored, so if you're going to be fighting against some of these heavy mother truckers, then you might as well stay out of the way.
Okay, what I tried to do, unfortunately, it didn't really succeed.
I found you.
Nowadays, you can deploy the shadow tanks, and it will prevent them from moving and firing. But they will stay pretty much undetected, unless, of course, the enemy does have stealth detection units around.
Yeah, or I just accidentally bump into them. Yeah, because of course the shadow tank automatically acquires targets. It automatically fires upon units that get within range in its normal mode. But in this mode, which is kind of a bit of an extra stealth mode, allows you to keep them completely still and utterly stealth, so that you can perhaps use them a while later. It basically opens up a little bit more tactical use for them, instead of them just blindly firing at their opponents whenever they get near. If you really don't want them to uncloak for a while, then you can just put them in. You can just press D, put them in deploy mode, and they'll just sit still and quiet until you give them other orders.
Of course, if you want them to move again, you would have to select them and press D once again. Because you can't simply just select them again and then move them, because they won't even move.
Well, yeah, obviously. Okay, so moving on. What do we have? What do you want to talk about next?
Well, those big mother truckers that you just used.
Yeah, why not? I was just talking about them a second ago, so let's talk about the Colossi. That's plural for Colossus. Ain't I a clever clogs?
Yeah.
But yeah, they are the headquarters tier 3 anti-tank, tier 3 heavy tank units. As you can see, they are rather effective against groups of units, with some fairly fast firing weapons here. Very fast firing weapons. Ouch. But that's of course not. But that's not the only thing, I believe, because I mean they're not particularly effective against infantry, of course. But I also noticed that the headquarters, of course, doesn't have any dedicated anti-air. Well, surprisingly, they do, which is where it's absolutely terrifying.
When you deploy the Colossus, when you deploy them, it becomes a stationary tier 3 anti-air. Cannons,
which fire at an idiotic rate of speed of fire. And as a little bit of a bonus to that, they also do more damage to heavier tier 3 units, slower units, and units that are stationary. So you do not want your units to be idling when they're around. And I think that with an invader, which is a little bit lighter, maybe I can sneak past. Yeah, you can see it does a little. It takes a little bit longer to get to kill them off. But as you saw, Basilisks, which are slightly heavier and slower, they do a considerable more amount of damage to them. And I think that's it for the Colossus. The Colossus are they're still powerful, slow. Dare I say? I think the medium of the kind of the middleman of the tier 3 heavy tanks.
For Epsilon, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. They're still reasonably quick. They're not particularly I think they are probably one of the heavier armored tier 3 tanks for the Epsilon. But generally very effective against tanks, against structures. But in general, they kind of lack against infantry, as you can see here. Get out.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
No, that's gonna take a while.
That's gonna take a while, especially since it's that specific infantry. So I'm gonna quickly go away.
Do that, yeah. Why don't you? Okay. So
how
about we move on?
Okay.
Oh, that was apparently.
That was your call.
Okay. So how about we move on to the Stalker?
Yeah, sure. The Stalker was the infantry that I transported with the drillers earlier on to the back of Zenothist's base.
I see them.
And as you might notice, the Epsilon HQ kind of lack a tier 3 artillery unit. Well,
this is it.
Since Epsilon HQ focuses more on infantry and support, look at that.
Yeah, so they kind of have their own basically their this infantry unit, which is kind of like a super powered up Ents brute, carrying its own weapons platform, which pretty much makes up their artillery divisions. As a neat little trick alongside them to kind of help them out, also being a support unit, they can also paralyze infantry with the cannon they have in their other arm, I believe, which prevents infantry from moving, allowing for easier capture or killing of their opponents. As you can see here, I'll just move a couple out of the way. See, I can. You can desperately see them trying to move away, but not really effective now.
However, they cannot kill infantry this way. You definitely You definitely need some support to get rid of the enemy infantry, because this will keep up forever.
Yeah. Okay, so the Stalker is, tier 3 siege infantry, pretty tough. They can't be attacked by dogs, as you see, because, well, they've got those gigantic-ass suits. I mean, how am I supposed to attack them with only dogs?
Yeah.
So, no use there. Previously, in 2.0 and in 1.2 of Metal Omega, they were previously known as Nightmares. Some of you more astute players among us might notice. I mean, they still have the equivalent of the kind of orangey cannonball that they have. They still have that now, and they've just been given a bit more a bit more of a specialized role. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so earlier tonight we discussed one of the HQ support powers. Now let's go on for the other one. Well,
okay.
Wait. The Gene Burst is for infantry. So is the Kinetic Barrier. The Kinetic Barrier does something completely different. So let me use that on, for instance, my Stalkers.
Okay. So I can tell by the nice little arrows that you have that you've gotten an armor buff.
And to be specifically,
which is immediately apparent because it's taking me forever to kill one of them.
To be more specific, it increases the armor for infantry by 50%. For a total of 40 seconds. So you can definitely do a lot.
So that's a pretty significant boost, yeah.
You can take a lot more hits and you can do a lot more damage for these 40
especially
seconds.
Especially combined with the already tough Stalkers. I mean, that's definitely something. That's definitely something, especially for headquarters, that can turn some tides in some battles. You can definitely turn some tables.
Definitely. So how about we move on?
Sure. How about we move on to, I think, one of the more anticipated units of this spotlight.
Just a second.
The Airala.
Just a second. I'm getting again that.
As soon as my internet comes back. Yeah, there we go.
Are we? Are we?
Are we? Are we?
I hope so.
I think so.
I'm gonna take a gamble.
Okay.
I've had this thing just about ready since the very start of this.
Okay, I'm listening.
This is one of the most iconic units of Metal Omega 3.0 for headquarters.
It's definitely one of the more awesome ones, I would admit. Well, then show it off. There it is. The Aerial Fortress Airala. Pretty much the Centurion equivalent for Epsilon.
Absolutely
which
not.
is a single
Absolutely
and
not
a
the
little more, actually.
equivalent.
Well, it's kind of...
The only thing that has in common is that it's super expensive and that you can only build one of them at a time. But that's basically where all the similarities end.
Yeah, it does. That's true. You do have a point, because other than that, it fulfills completely different roles. The Airala, well, can you tell us a little bit about the ornament? Can I show off some of the ornament?
Why don't you come?
I'm gonna do that right now.
Why don't you come over here with a few of your basilisks, for instance?
Well, let's see. Do I have them here yet? Do I actually have basilisks left? Do I have anything left? Yeah. I have a couple of archers left. I'll come kill you with that. Come at me. On that, you're gonna have to wait a teeny little bit while.
I see a few
while
archers. I see a few
some
archers.
forces. Well, I must some forces here. Yeah, I mean it's anti-air, so well, it's an air unit, and I'll just kill it with arrows.
I don't think so. Let's have a little laser
As you
show.
can see, the Airala, of course. Well, not only just a laser show, it's got like great balls of fire along with it as well. As you can see, of course, the Airala, being an air unit, it does have its vulnerabilities. It is incredibly powerful. However, it's very slow, very heavily armored, very tough to take down. But of course, it has its vulnerabilities. If it gets caught up in anti-air, which will happen once in a while, then the Airala it's not immortal, as the name would probably hint at to be. No, but the Airala is generally, it's a multi-weapons platform, it's anti-air, it's anti-ground, it's one gigantic-ass support unit. It's a fantastic unit to have with you if you want to deny a large amount of area around you, if you want to protect a very high-priority target. For instance, if you've got an MCV nearby that you're trying to allow to escape, well, the Airala can take care of any enemies that are attempting to surround you. It's got high rate of fire, as you can see, as well as, well, yeah, I'll just call them Great Falls of Fire, which are absolutely devastating against enemy units if they hit. So yeah, like Doom, like I said, it's a Centurion equivalent as for the expensiveness, the epic feel of it, and the single build, and of course that you can only build one at a time per player. And as Doom said, at the same time, it's not like Centurion. It's got a completely different role, which is actually starkly opposed to the Centurion. The Centurion is definitely a lot more for offensive use. It's a siege unit. You're supposed to move it right into the battle and attack things with it. The Airala, on the other hand, is a bit more like a. It's definitely a way. It's a very big, souped-up, buffed support unit. And I think, and I'm going to take a little hint here, that you'll probably be seeing it in the campaign. You'll probably see it featured rather often in the campaign. So stay tuned for that.
Okay then. And with that, let's go over one of the oldest heroes in Mental Omega. Featured since 1.0, well, I was told.
Oh, really? Oh, that is really neat. Yeah, of course, everybody knows Ron, the original hero that we had for all of Epsilon back in 2.9 and 1.0. And I think he hasn't actually changed at all. He has barely changed at all, except in sound and appearance, of course. But gameplay-wise, he's pretty much remained the same. He's a strong, tough, fast dude with a railgun that can mutate enemy infantry into brutes.
It's a shame that I don't have any infantry to show it on, but also, of course, this.
Well, of course, that is correct. You can't.
You can no longer mutate your own infantry. That has been changed.
That's correct.
And compared to
that's of course primarily for balance reasons, because
and compared to
you don't want.
Compared to 2.0, it is no longer amphibious.
Yeah, that's correct, because we've buffed him quite a bit health-wise and health-wise in general. So he's pretty much Ron. His backstory is kind of he's like the ultimate killing machine. He is pretty much what started out with the project of archers who are kind of genetically augmented humans, stalkers and brutes who are basically completely genetically modified human beings with a generally lower intelligence. And Ron is kind of like the pinnacle of that kind of technology. He's super strong, super smart. To all effects and purposes, he's a super soldier. As you can see here, well, we're going to be doing a little bit of capture the infantry here. As you can see, he also spawns a specific set of. Oh, got me there.
Oh wait, that was your Ron? Seriously?
Touché. Yeah.
Ouch.
Touché.
You got my Ron. Well, what I was trying to do was showcase that if you put a line of infantry in a line of fire and you fire on the infantry last in line, is that all infantry in between will actually be affected by the railgun that Ron uses, and all infantry will end up being mutated.
Yeah, correct. Pretty much the same thing as with Morales, I think. Okay, neat. So I think that concludes the headquarters Subfaction Spotlight for tonight. And then you can all start counting down to the day, which would be this Saturday, the 30th of November, when the public beta for Metal Omega 3.0 is released to the public. Because it's a public beta. Get it?